Have you ever, like, watched yourself make the exact same mistake, just in absolute slow motion?
Oh, yeah. It's the worst feeling.
Right, like saying the exact wrong thing or shutting down in an argument or compulsively people-pleasing.
And you know exactly why you're doing it.
Exactly. You see it happening. You literally have the vocabulary for it, but you still feel completely powerless to stop it.
Yeah, it's so incredibly common.
Well, welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are looking at a really fascinating guide. It's called Therapy Plateau, What Next? By Master Guru Kiran.
It's a brilliant piece of work.
It really is. And our mission today is to figure out why highly self-aware people who have genuinely, done the work, why do they still find themselves helplessly repeating their old destructive patterns?
Right.
And more importantly, how to finally break that cycle. So, okay, let's unpack this because the premise here completely flips the script.
It really does.
It suggests that if we are stuck in this endless loop, we aren't actually failing. We are likely the most advanced people in the room.
What's fascinating here is that this high level of advancement is precisely what makes the trap so incredibly invisible. We are talking about a space called the therapy plateau. And, this isn't a scenario for someone who just gave up on self-improvement after a 3-week meditation challenge.
Right. We're talking about the veterans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're talking about someone who has spent years, maybe a decade, exploring every single avenue. Years of talk therapy, silent retreats, breath work.
Maybe even plant medicine, right?
Oh, absolutely. Plant medicine, somatic healing. You probably know your attachment style inside and out.
Yeah, you know your childhood wounds.
You can trace the exact granular psychological origin of why you avoid intimacy or why you overwork yourself to the bone.
Or why you wake up at 3 a.m. with that hollow, panicked feeling in your chest.
Yes, you are, by every metric, vastly more self-aware than 99% of the population.
You've got the clinical vocabulary, you've got the profound insights.
You do.
And yet, Sunday evening rolls around, the exact same environmental trigger happens, and the exact same pattern runs its course.
Like clockwork.
Right. We have the same argument with our partner, the same emotional shutdown, the same urge to flee, and it is absolutely maddening because you are literally watching yourself do it.
And then you go into your therapist's office on Tuesday,
Yeah.
and you're going in circles, doing the same nodding, telling the same incredibly articulate stories about your trauma, but nothing is fundamentally shifting in your behavior.
It's like studying a car's engine for a decade, right?
Mhm.
You know the name of every single piston and valve, but you're still driving the car into a ditch every single Sunday.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
So what does this all mean? How can someone be more equipped with knowledge than ever before, but vastly more stuck than ever?
Well, if we look at the mechanics of what's happening,
Yeah.
the mind was never actually the problem. Your insight and your intellectual awareness have simply reached their absolute biological limit. The plateau happens because all of those sophisticated tools, the daily journaling, the executive coaching,
Well, endless analyzing.
right? All of it has been aimed at the completely wrong objective. You have been trying to stop the pattern,
Wow.
trying to force it to go away, to catch it before it runs, or to override it with a quote-unquote better habit.
And that doesn't work.
No, because every single time you try to use willpower to stop it, the pattern overpowers you. And not because you are weak or undisciplined,
Right.
but because your nervous system is deeply, fundamentally aligned to that specific pattern.
Wait, aligned to it. You mean my nervous system actually wants me to run away from healthy relationships or work myself into a state of total burnout?
It does.
That sounds completely counterintuitive.
It does, until we look at why the pattern exists in the first place.
Yeah.
That pattern isn't some malicious enemy living inside you. It is your own creation. It was built by you for you at a very specific time in your life when you genuinely needed it.
When I had absolutely no other options to survive.
Exactly. It was your ultimate bodyguard.
Yeah.
So it is wired into the deepest, most primal layers of how your body responds to the world.
Right.
When you try to abruptly stop it using willpower, discipline, or sheer force, your nervous system doesn't perceive a healing breakthrough. It experiences a severe existential threat.
It's like you're trying to fire the bodyguard. Wow.
While walking through a dark alley.
Yeah.
Yes. So the nervous system doubles down. The pattern doesn't just run, it runs with twice the intensity.
Oh, wow. So trying to kill the pattern is basically sending a distress signal to my internal alarm system, telling it that we are under immediate attack.
Precisely. Every time that pattern returns, it isn't trying to sabotage your life. It's simply coming back to ask one very specific, almost innocent question.
Which is
Do you still need me?
that.
And here is the mechanical truth of how the nervous system operates. If you resist the pattern, if you judge it, try to push it away or get angry at yourself for feeling it again.
Which is what we always do.
Right. Your nervous system watches your reaction. It sees you struggling and thrashing just to sit with your own internal creation.
Yeah.
And it makes a very logical, biological calculation. It says, if they can't even handle this internal feeling calmly, they certainly cannot handle the external situation that triggered it.
Which means it strips your conscious power away and lets the automatic pattern take over completely to save you.
Yes,
It's taking the wheel because you're panicking in the passenger seat.
that's the exact mechanism. The pattern doesn't overpower you because it's stronger than your conscious mind. It overpowers you because your resistance proves to it that it still has to take control for your own safety.
That reminds me so much of how quicksand works.
Oh, the quicksand analogy is perfect here.
Yeah, the source mentions this. When you step into quicksand, every single human instinct, like millions of years of evolution, screams at you to struggle.
Right.
You kick, you thrash, you try desperately to pull your legs out, but the physics of quicksand mean that your thrashing creates a vacuum. The harder you fight, the faster that vacuum pulls you under. The only way to survive is completely counterintuitive. You have to stop moving, lean back, spread your weight, and just be present with the terrifying ground beneath you.
That's a brilliant way to look at it.
But I have to push back here.
Sure.
If I have a highly destructive habit, like constantly running away from commitment or, I don't know, drinking too much or overworking myself to the point of a hospital visit,
Right.
and I just sit with it and don't fight it like I'm floating in quicksand, doesn't that just mean I'm giving up? Aren't I just letting the bad habit win and ruin my life?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we see that sitting with the pattern, the state of pure non-reaction, is absolutely not passivity.
It's not.
Not at all. In fact, it is the most deliberate, active, and courageous choice you can possibly make. Think about your quicksand analogy.
Okay.
The quicksand cannot pull down what isn't struggling against it. The vacuum only exists if you create it.
Oh, that makes sense.
When you simply sit with a destructive urge, without judgment, and without declaring war on it, something incredible happens biologically. The pattern starts to trust you.
Trust you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It realizes, oh, they are calm. They aren't terrified of me. They can actually handle this. And the moment it trusts you, it hands your power back. It returns the vast amount of energy it was holding on to so that the calm, intelligent, aligned version of you can handle the real-world situation.
So the goal isn't to abandon your patterns or like aggressively amputate parts of your personality.
Exactly. It's about realizing that simply being is enough to disarm the alarm system.
That is a massive paradigm shift. I mean, it completely invalidates the whole grind culture, fight your demons, conquer your mentality that we are constantly sold.
It really does.
But if willpower and resistance are the actual enemies here, how do we practically do this? How do we achieve this state of being without our own brains sabotaging the process? Because I don't know about you, but my brain loves to overcomplicate things.
Well, the transition from forcing to being starts with the absolute simplest tool we have, which is why it's so easily overlooked.
Okay.
You have to build the literal capacity to just be with the sensation without trying to manage it. Master Guru Kiran highlights a very specific practice for this, which is anapanasati meditation.
Anapanasati. Okay, what is that?
You sit with your legs crossed, hands clasped, eyes closed, and you bring all your attention to a tiny area, just the sensation of the breath inside your nostrils.
Just the nostrils.
Yes, but the key here is the mechanism of action. You do not control the breath.
So no deep breathing exercises.
Exactly. You don't try to make it deeper or slower to relax yourself. You don't label it. You just observe the air moving in and out.
So it's not a relaxation technique at all? It's like a micro-training facility for the nervous system. By focusing on that tiny space inside the nostril and refusing to alter the breath, you are proving to your nervous system that you can observe a process without needing to intervene and control it.
That is exactly what it is.
And you can do that throughout the day too, right? Like just noticing your natural breathing while you're typing an email or waiting in line without trying to turn it into a deep breathing exercise.
Precisely. Every single moment of that pure observation is an incremental increase in your baseline capacity for being.
Okay.
But this is precisely where the process gets incredibly tricky.
Yeah.
As you build this capacity, your mind is going to notice.
Uh-oh.
The mind is incredibly intelligent, it loves to be in control, and it will try to use this new framework of being against you.
The source has a great analogy for this.
The lawyer analogy, yes.
Yeah. Imagine hiring a brilliant, expensive lawyer to defend you in court, and then slowly discovering over months that your lawyer is secretly slipping evidence to the prosecution.
That is your mind during this phase of transformation.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the mind holds on to everything. Every therapy session we've attended, every retreat, every deep dive we've listened to, every complex spiritual concept we've ever learned.
It stores it all.
And it will weaponize our own advanced vocabulary to build a case against us actually changing. There are two specific traps that constantly catch people here.
Yes, let's talk about those.
The first is what we can call the permission trap. This is where your mind says, hey, we are practicing non-judgment now. We are just being. So observing this intense urge to text our toxic ex at midnight means we should just go ahead and do it right. We shouldn't resist the flow.
Right, which completely misses the point.
It twists acceptance into an excuse for destructive behavior.
Because observation is about holding the internal space so the emotion can process,
Yeah.
not executing the old habit in the external world.
Exactly.
But the second trap is far more insidious. It's the sophisticated force trap.
Oh, this one is sneaky.
Extremely sneaky. This is where you use the very concept of being as a highly refined new method to force the pattern to stop. You sit there meditating, seemingly perfectly calm, focusing on your breath. But underneath it all, your internal monologue is saying, okay, I'm observing you now, I'm being mindful, so go away, disappear, fix me.
It's like paying a retainer to someone who is actively betraying you. That is still resistance.
It is.
It's just resistance wearing a really nice, spiritually enlightened suit. You're trying to life hack surrender.
But the nervous system isn't stupid. It still feels the underlying demand for the pattern to die, so it keeps the alarm bells ringing.
Wow. So we have to remember the core biological engine here. Genuine observation without a hidden agenda equals an increase in being.
Yes.
And an increase in being equals your power naturally returning to you. So once we spot our mind playing these sophisticated legal tricks, the instinct is usually to fight back with a massive, life-changing overhaul. We think, I need to fix this right now. But that's a trap too, isn't it?
It's the ultimate trap for the high achiever. You don't fight a sprawling darkness by coming up with a brilliant intellectual argument against the dark. You just light a single candle.
Just one candle.
Yes. Long-term seekers almost always fail at this stage because they demand a floodlight. They want a dramatic, cinematic decision. They want a complete overhaul of their personality by next Tuesday.
Which never works.
Because taking a massive, sweeping action is reaching far beyond the actual capacity you currently hold over your nervous system's pattern. If you pick up a floodlight that you don't have the battery power to sustain, it will just flicker out, and you'll end up feeling like a failure again.
So the goal is to scale it way, way down. We need one candle, one action that is strictly proportional to the actual power we have reclaimed in that moment.
Exactly.
Think about how this plays out in real life. If you're a chronic people pleaser, your floodlight instinct is to suddenly become this ruthless boundary setter, burning bridges and telling everyone off.
Which is unsustainable. Your nervous system will panic.
Right. Instead, light a candle. Make one small contrary point, just once, in a low-stakes meeting where you normally would have stayed silent.
Yes.
Or if your pattern is an overwhelming avoidance of your life's purpose, your floodlight instinct is to dramatically quit your corporate job to write a novel. Don't do that.
Take one tiny action.
Read one single page of research. Make one 5-minute phone call. That small, sustained flame is what actually permanently shifts the biological balance.
And the most difficult part of lighting that single candle is that the immediate results are almost imperceptible. To understand this, look at the growth cycle of the Chinese bamboo tree.
Oh, I love this analogy.
It's so fitting.
Yeah.
When you plant the seed, you water it and nurture it, and for the first 4 years, there was almost zero visible growth above the ground.
Nothing at all.
It looks like absolutely nothing is happening. It looks like a massive waste of time. But underground, an incredibly vast, complex root system is expanding massively through the soil. In the 5th year, once that foundation is built, the bamboo shoots up 80 feet into the air in just 6 weeks. Most people quit this process at year 3 because they are desperate for flashy, dramatic shifts and they can't see the roots.
But how is someone supposed to measure their progress if the growth is literally invisible? I mean, if we aren't taking massive actions and we aren't experiencing dramatic cinematic breakthroughs, How do we track something we can't even see?
That is the exact purpose of daily journaling in this framework.
Journaling.
But you aren't journaling to record your trauma or draft an eloquent essay about your feelings. You are journaling strictly to track the roots. Master Guru Kiran suggests a very clinical daily review.
Okay, what does that look like?
At the end of each day, you quickly write down 4 simple data points. What did the pattern do today? What did you do in response? Where were the moments you simply watched and observed? And where were the moments you got totally pulled in and consumed?
So it's an audit of your awareness, not an audit of your perfection.
Exactly. After 7 to 14 days of logging this, you look back at the data and you start to spot the invisible growth.
Oh, wow.
Are you catching the pattern a few seconds earlier than you did last week? Are there moments, even brief 3-second windows, where you simply watch the urge to lash out or shut down without actually being consumed by it?
That widening gap between the trigger and the reaction, that is your being increasing.
That is the capillary action of the roots growing.
Yeah.
Real, permanent behavioral shifts rarely look like fireworks. They look like quiet, completely unstoppable structural growth.
It's so profound because it totally redefines what actual progress looks like.
Yeah,
It takes the pressure off performing or healing.
it really does.
But of course, the journey doesn't just smoothly sail to the finish line because you started a data journal. We're going to face massive, brutal pushback from our own brains.
Oh, absolutely.
When we are alone, driving in the car without the radio on, or sitting in silence, the objections are going to hit hard. Our minds will say, you've done so much deep trauma work, why would just sitting here focusing on your nostril do anything?
Or, I'm unable to take major life-altering actions right now. This is a pathetic waste of my potential.
Yes.
And this is the most critical juncture of the entire process. This pushback is not a sign of failure. It is the literal sound of the pattern fighting for its survival.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, the pattern thrives on drama and massive exertion, so small, quiet shifts feel deeply threatening to it. It will actively use your formidable intelligence, your long history of therapy, and your sheer mental exhaustion to try and convince you that this is pointless, just to pull you back to the familiar chaotic ground it knows how to control.
But I have to ask, though, let's say I'm listening to this, and I'm someone who has spent the kind of staggering money we sometimes see in this space. People spend anywhere from $20,000 to over $150,000 on high-end coaching, exclusive retreats, and somatic therapies over a decade.
It's very common, yes.
Right. So if I've invested a small fortune and thousands of hours into my mental health, and suddenly my brain is screaming at me that sitting still and lighting a metaphorical candle is a complete waste of time, how do I know if that's just the pattern fighting for survival, or if it's actually my very expensive common sense telling me to run from a method that isn't working?
This raises an important question, and honestly, it's the ultimate test of the plateau.
Okay.
The answer here is deeply validating. Those intense objections are not evidence that you are stuck, and they are certainly not evidence that the method is failing. They're evidence that you are finally standing directly on the threshold of change.
Ah.
The pattern is only panicking because something is actually finally shifting at the root level. You've already proven you have the grit to invest time and money. You've proven you can show up and do the grueling intellectual work of understanding your trauma.
Yeah, that's not the issue.
Right. What you lack isn't more information. What you lack is integration. And that integration is what your nervous system is actually desperately searching for.
Right. It's about moving from knowing the path to actually walking it. And the ultimate destination here isn't what we usually picture. It's not about finding another complex psychological technique to add to your tool belt.
No, it's about integration.
Yeah, the moment where your profound intellectual insight finally becomes a lived, embodied reality. And the source talks about giving yourself permission to rest, finding a baseline sense of worth that you don't have to constantly earn through overworking or performing for others.
That's a huge piece of it.
And my absolute favorite concept here is identity coherence. That is when your internal private experience finally matches your external public presentation.
Yes.
You become one single integrated human being rather than a high-functioning, incredibly successful CEO during the day and a collapsed, anxious, emotionally shattered mess in private at 2 a.m.
And ultimately, reaching that coherence brings about the end of the search. Not reaching some mythical floating state of total enlightenment where you never feel sad again, but just acquiring the quiet, unshakable ability to simply be exactly where you are.
Without that constant gnawing friction telling you that something is missing or needs to be fixed.
Exactly. And this is exactly why spaces like the 1.1 Rika being space, with master glucanum exist. They're designed specifically for this high-level threshold.
Mm-hmm.
When you are that advanced,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need more information.
Yeah.
You already have entirely too much of that. You need a dedicated space to experience this state of being, practically. To have your mind's highly sophisticated legal traps and objections pointed out and redirected in real time, so you stop endlessly circling the intellectual plateau and actually step off it.
It's the ultimate handoff from constantly managing and intellectualizing your life to actually having the capacity to experience it. So, to quickly trace the arc of what we've unpacked today, we started out stranded on the incredibly crowded therapy plateau, weighed down by having way too much insight and experiencing way too little behavioral change.
Right.
We learned that the secret to moving forward isn't applying more white-knuckled willpower, but dropping the resistance entirely.
Completely dropping it.
We explored how to survive the quicksand of our own nervous system by simply allowing ourselves to be, recognizing the vacuum effect of our own thrashing. We talked about watching out for our mind's tricky legal defenses, like the permission trap and sophisticated force, and we learned how to track our quiet, unstoppable, bamboo-like growth through tiny actions and objective daily reflection.
And perhaps most importantly, we learned that the absolute loudest, most cynical objections from our own minds aren't red flags of failure.
No.
They are the final, desperate maneuvers of an outdated biological survival system, right before a true, permanent shift takes root.
Exactly. So, to wrap up this deep dive, let's bring it all the way back to that slow motion mistake we talked about at the very beginning.
Okay.
We established that your most stubborn, destructive pattern is just your own creation, an old bodyguard coming back to ask, "Do you still need me?" I want you to think about your oldest, most deeply frustrating personal flaw, the one you hate the most.
The one that always trips you up.
Yeah. If that flaw is actually just an outdated, wildly overworked bodyguard trying its absolute best to keep you safe from a threat that no longer exists, what exactly is it trying to protect you from today?
That's a great question.
And what would happen if the very next time it shows up to hijack your Sunday evening, you finally looked that bodyguard right in the eye, didn't fight it, didn't judge it, and just quietly said, "Thank you, but I've got it from here." Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time.